The Washington Commanders are on a little mini break here for Labor Day weekend, but we still got information for you. And we have Zach Selby talking to us about the excitement for week one, how good Sam Howell and the other second-year players are going to be, and the path to a winning record. That and more on the 2nd September season preview. Let's go. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner, and you can find this here on our YouTube channel or wherever your audio podcasts are found, because we're on the Believe Network and we believe in the Commanders. That's a different show, but we still cover the Commanders here on Ref the District. Stoner, it is September. Football season is here. This is last weekend without football. The Washington Commanders have sold out week one. How exciting is this? The season's about to begin.
Yeah, and I can't even remember the last time. I'm sure maybe we can ask Zach if he knows, but man, it's been a while since we've had this kind of vibe around this team in the stadium week one. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and without, you've already kind of somewhat introduced him. With the Washington Commanders, we have Zach Selby joining us here on Ref the District today. Zach, thanks for joining us here for the first time. So we're happy to have you here on Ref the District.
Thank you.
Stoner had the little applause thing going there. Let's get that out of the way, right? So they're sold out. Do you know when the last time it was really sold out at FedEx Field?
I mean, they were sold out last year, so it's not like it's been that long ago. But I think in terms of like the hype and the fanfare around a sellout it's been longer than I've been here, since it's been, there's been this much hype around one game. I mean, there was maybe a couple Cowboys games in between the 4 years that I've been there that have kind of been as hyped up. Obviously the playoff game, but this seems like it's a little bit different. And there's like this massive wave that we're all kind of riding on. I've been saying that a lot about this, all the excitement from the fans, which has just been fantastic over the last, I guess it feels like it's been forever, but it's really been a couple of months since Josh Harris finalized the sale of the team, the purchase of the team, but it's been fantastic. I think, it's just been building and building and building for pretty much since Mr. Harris first got up to the podium to introduce himself to the fans. And I can't wait. It's going to be one of the coolest probably experiences that I'll have ever been seeing at FedEx Field. And I mean, it looks like, there's a lot of things that point in Washington's favor for a win. We're not in the business of making predictions here. At least I'm not. But I think that there are a lot of things that make you feel really anxious and excited about what's going to happen on September 10th.
Yeah, and I want to kind of piggyback a little bit off that. And I don't want you to say anything bad about the previous regime or anything, but what has been the overall vibe just going into your workplace or being around the staff there at, in Ashburn and everything? What has been the difference that you've noticed personally?
I mean, the vibes are about as high as you can go, honestly. Like, it's just been completely turned around in a lot of ways. And, Mr. Harris is kind of, he made it clear, like, hey, like, things have not always been easy for this franchise. It's been very tumultuous over the last few years, and that's been tough on a lot of people. And the fact that, like, we're in this new era, this new chapter of this franchise, like, everybody can feel it, right? Like, as soon as that day first happened, when Mr. Harris first finally got up there and kind of gave his priorities for the franchise, it's just been, I guess even really before that, it's just been, everything's just grown in terms of enthusiasm, excitement. I mean, if you really need any indication of that, just look at training camp. I mean, we had, 10,000 fans were there for I think with 3 separate days, and they never dipped below, a couple thousand, for each day the fans were allowed to be there, and like that hasn't been the case since I've been here. And to see that was really cool. Like, just hear the excitement about, it's a nothing play during practice, but like everyone's cheering and being excited about, they just see Sam Howell just throwing a deep shot to Terry, and it just crowd goes wild, even though they're on air. It doesn't matter. You're seeing it, which is really cool. And I think, and then the preseason games. So I think honestly that Ravens preseason game it kind of had a little bit of
that's a real vibe there.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I mean, the fact that all those fans came out for a game that doesn't really even matter, really, really speaks a lot to where the franchise is headed. And I can't wait to see where it goes next.
Well, week 1 is coming up right around the corner, and we're going to talk about the football side of house here, but keeping the good vibes going. DJ Cool's going to be there. You've got cheap beers, $40 million being put into FedEx Field. How much of an improvement can fans expect going into FedEx this season?
I mean, I would expect a lot. I mean, the video boards have already, we saw a little bit of that during the preseason games. They've been improved. The sound system has already been, improved. I mean, that was a big deal. I think in that press release they mentioned there's going to be new food vendors there. That's going to be really awesome. As someone as an enjoyer of stadium food myself, I can attest to that. That's pretty awesome. But I would expect to have see noticeable changes. And as I've kind of said with Eric Bieniemy and his implementing his system into Washington, it's not going to be a complete turnaround, but it will be a noticeable turnaround. I think you could probably say the same for honestly, like a lot of aspects of the franchise, right? Like everyone knows it's not going to happen overnight. Like, yeah, we'd all love to be at a Super Bowl in February, but who knows if that's going to happen? But we're trying to build sustainable stuff here. We're looking down the road to long-term success to like build, not just win one championship, but multiple championships. And it takes a long road to get there. And we're all impatient. Mr. Harris is impatient. I'm impatient. I would love to see that, because I've only covered one playoff game in my entire career. I'd love to get a couple more under my belt.
Sure.
But before you get to step Z, you got to get through B, C, and all the other steps. So it's good. You'll see noticeable changes they'll really get you excited about the next step or the next phase of the process.
Zach, have you noticed? You can't help but notice, but Sam Howell has gone from an afterthought last year when he didn't, he was doing third string reps, which is very little, doing scout team stuff all last year, to all of a sudden he's basically been built up to be the savior of the franchise on the field. What have you seen in that development from last year where he was a nobody to this year being the guy?
Well, it's very interesting, Sam Howell's career, I guess his early careers, because a lot of people were anticipating him to be second round pick. He ends up falling to the fifth. He was honestly, I'm not just saying this because the time is, recency bias, but he was my favorite quarterback coming out of that draft class because of arm strength and what he was able to do with North Carolina's offense. Whenever he had a full arsenal of weapons, it was pretty special. Shattered a bunch of records, had poise in the pocket, all the other stuff. But the growth has been tremendous, because whether or not he deserved to be a fifth round pick, he was a fifth round pick. And when you have guys like that, you need to see noticeable growth throughout their careers, at least in the first couple of seasons. And I think he's done that. The footwork, I think, has been awesome. Rivera has harped on that a lot. I think something that really has impressed me the most is the ball placement, the accuracy on these contested throws. He places it exactly where only the receiver can get it in a lot of instances. And is it always going to be complete? No, that's not realistic. But that if he's throwing it out there, he's not putting it in harm's way. He's not doing something that's going to help the opposing defenses flip the field and get the momentum back in their favor. And I think that gives me a lot of comfort, knowing that a young quarterback who really only has one start under his belt, one real start if you don't count the preseason, he's already learning that. And I think that's very encouraging to see. I think his relationship with his receivers has gone as well as you can expect. I think him and Jahan have looked really crisp, throughout camp. I think that's honestly him, Cole Turner, Logan Thomas when he was out there before, his calf issue. Those are the three that I think he had probably the most connection with. And then Terry, obviously he and Terry are, I think their skill sets are just like a match made in heaven, honestly, because you have a guy who can make these catches deep downfield. You have a guy who can throw it accurately downfield, which you could argue that Terry hasn't had a quarterback who's been willing to throw the ball downfield that much, and B, been able to throw it accurately to him whenever he's
capable of throwing it downfield without putting their entire body in there. Yeah.
Having some, of course, there's been other veteran quarterbacks that Terry's worked with, but having those raw skill sets and that combination of traits, I think, is really unique to his relationship with Sam Howell so far. And that gives me a lot of confidence in what this offense could be down there when it really starts, revving and rolling here because you're not going to be you're not going to be completely ready for your offense on week one. No offense, especially when you're learning a new system. But as you get into the season, I think when you hit that midseason stride, you're really going to see what this offense is capable of.
So Sam Howell coming into his second year. You mentioned a couple other guys who are entering their second year that I'm interested in finding out how they're going to grow with Sam Howell, and that's Jahan Dotson and Cole Turner, a fellow fifth-round pick from last season. What does their growth look like here in this training camp and preseason?
Well, I guess we'll start with Cole first, because I think he was one of the biggest standouts of camp in general, just because we haven't really seen that much of him, since last training camp. And, when he was coming out of Nevada, you knew that he was, he had the receiver background, so he could catch the ball. And he's done that a lot. I mean, he's been a great red zone target. He's been really reliable. He's run really well. He run really good short routes, intermediate routes. He's done that exceptionally well. And considering how he hasn't really played that much over the last year, to see him grow that much in that area is encouraging. I think another thing that is really the most impressive about him is his blocking. Because whenever he was coming out, I think blocking was not really something that he did. Because you looked at him and he's a tall dude, as all the other tight ends of the Commanders roster are, but he was not. You wouldn't look at him and be like, oh, that dude's a blocker, because he's a slimmer build. But I think now he's packed on some muscle. He looks a little thicker, and he's throwing his body around. I think the play that really stick out to me the most is that cross block he had against the Ravens. That shows you exactly what they want out of a tight end like Cole Turner, who, he's gonna hang his hat on being a receiver. But if he can make plays like that, because if he doesn't make that play, the play doesn't work. Like the play is getting blown for a TFL, and they're stuck behind the sticks again. But the fact that he was able to throw his body around and make that block allows Brian Robinson to get a positive gain. And they're not worried. That gives them more flexibility in what they can call in the next play. I think that's something I really like a lot. Now for Jahan, Jahan you could argue was already pro ready for his first year, because of how exceptional he was at running routes and catching the ball. All those things are, you could argue that he might be one of the best route runners on the team. Honestly, maybe even the best route runner on the team, just pure route runner. And he's just taken all that and improved even more, which is awesome to see, because when you have guys like that who are already so talented in their first year, you kind of wonder, okay, you've already proven this, so what are you going to do if you're a year ahead? Are you going to just rest on your laurels, or are you going to do what every other good pro does and improves year over year? And he's done that. His routes are sharper. His hands are better. He has even though he's not really, even though everyone's still learning this offense, he looks like he's really taken a hold of it and has a really good command of what is expected of him. And like I said, him and Sam have connected a lot, because he knows that Jahan is going to be so open a lot. And even when he's not, he has good enough hands and good enough catch radius to make him right, because that Cleveland Browns touchdown, that was sick. That would be a contender if there was such a thing about preseason of the year. That would be up there for the Commanders, because of how he was able to, it was a little bit inaccurate, but it was still a good ball. He still managed to catch it, and then he ducks under the defenders and just jogs into the end zone. This is awesome, because you weren't seeing that last year with this offense. You just weren't. And even as talented as Jahan was, you weren't seeing that. So I think those two players, it just elevates this offense even more. And you'll see it more from Jahan, because he'll be a more active member of the offense. But with Cole being the number 2 or number 3, I guess you could say, you're not going to see it as much. But I think he's going to come out with a lot more clutch catches than he was in his rookie year, when we saw the flashes, but you could tell that he still had a ways to go.
Sure.
So let's move to the other side of the ball, and you had a top 5 or top 10, top 5 defense, depending on the metrics you're looking at. And then they went out and spent their first 2 picks on a first rounder. On a defensive player. And everything that we've heard about Emmanuel Forbes, the first round pick, has been spectacular. Have you seen that? Is he that guy back there that's going to be finally kind of that shutdown, make some plays, make some turnovers type guy?
I think I'll speak on that a little bit, because I do think, when you say shutdown corner, I think as awesome as it would be for him to be Sauce Gardner, like it's almost impossible for a first year player, a cornerback at that, to be a Sauce Gardner. That's like a once in a generation type of talent. But that said, I think Emmanuel he lives up to the hype, and I think he's on his way at least to. You could see a path where he can become that. I think is the best part about him, because like his size is definitely not a factor. Even though everyone, in the draft process made such a big deal about it. And I mean, not unfairly, because we never seen someone that small play that position, but he's physical. You saw those TFLs he made against the Ravens, and that third down stop he made against the Browns in the preseason. Those are really good to see. I think that does help quiet down some of the concerns about how, this guy is too small, he's not going to be able to, be as dominant as he was at Mississippi State. Two, I think he's got the range and the length to make up for any mistake he makes, right? So if he does manage to lose a step on a receiver, which you did see happen against receivers like Terry and Jahan and Curtis, because they're some of the better receivers in the league, honestly, especially when it comes to running routes and getting separation. You saw that he was able to pick up on that speed, because one, he's as fast as they are. He runs a 4.3 just like all the other talented receivers on the Commanders roster. And two, he's got such long arms that he can deflect passes even if he's a step or two behind. You saw that a lot with Terry and Jahan. I think you saw it a couple times in some battles with De'Ami Brown. Like, he's able to make himself right because he's at least in a good enough position to let his athleticism and his traits sort of take over. And that's also really what you really want to see, because you're not going to have someone who's going to come in there and just know the playbook and just be a perfect fit into the defense day one. It's just not possible. But you want to see someone who is at least putting himself in the position to make plays, and then, for lack of a better term, be an athlete. Like that. I think that's what he does. He does really well, and he's really good at man coverage. I think he's learning the zone stuff, and I think he's like everything else. He's not going to be, the guy that completely changes this defense, because it was already good. But I think he's going to help elevate the secondary a lot, along with the other additions, on that defense as well, because that secondary is loaded with talent. It's really, I think it's one of the deeper positions on the team. And I mean, they put him as a starting cornerback as a rookie. So that tells you, if you need any kind of sign about what Emmanuel Forbes is going to be, just look at that and just say, okay, we're in good hands here.
Staying on the defensive side of the ball, Zach, one of the bigger topics this offseason was the Washington Commanders not picking up Chase Young's fifth-year option. Right now, he's dealing with an injury. Next year, they don't have Montez Sweat or Chase Young, their top two edge rushers on the roster. So what can we expect from them in this contract year?
Well, I think what you hope is you see something like what they got from Daron Payne, a motivated person who is like saying, okay, I see you. You didn't give me a contract extension like I thought you were going to give me, or didn't pick up my fifth-year option like you wanted to give me, or I thought you were going to give me. So let me go out here and make it hard on you. Let me go out here and show you okay, this is why you need to give me, a whole new contract, and give me generational wealth that's going to take care of me and my family for the rest of their lives. And I think if you have a motivated Chase Young, that bodes exceptionally well for your defense, because I know it's going on 3 years ago now, but I mean, that talent that he had in 2020 didn't just go away. Like, it didn't just disappear. He still got that in him. It's just we haven't had a chance to see it because he wasn't playing up to expectations in the first half of 2021. And when he was starting to pick it up and get things right, he was injured. And then he missed almost all of the 2022 season, although you did see some flashes here and there in those last couple of games about what Chase could be. And I think, we'll see where he goes with his injury. But from what we have seen out there on the field during camp, I mean, he was playing without any hesitation and any kind of, trepidations or any kind of, second guessing or, any kind. I mean, he's going full speed, like 100%. And I think that's the Chase that you want to see. You want to see the Chase that's out there, is energetic, going after the ball on every play, hyping his teammates up, talking trash every now and again. Like, that's the guy that you saw the old Chase a lot more. And I'm really excited to see what he does. Now with Montez Sweat, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, Montez has just been he has ascended a lot, although you're not going to see a lot of the sack numbers for him, right? You're going to see the pressures, you're going to see the quarterback hits, and you're going to see his ability to set an edge and defend against the run, which he's one of the better defensive ends in the league when it comes to that. So I think we're gonna have to see him. Yes, we like the pressure rate, we like the quarterback hits and the hurries and all this other stuff. Let's see if we can finish. And that was something that they had with Daron Payne. Now they always talk about how well Daron Payne did it, crash in the pocket, but he didn't finish the plays. Mm-hmm. And when he did, he ended up tying a franchise record for the most sacks by a defensive tackle in franchise history. So if he can finish those plays and he can get quarterbacks on the ground, then I think you're going to see him kind of rise up in notoriety and instead of just being, he's a nice underrated like quality player, into like this could be one of the best defensive ends in the league, period.
Very good. And my last question for you, Zach. Nathan likes to say we're 17-0 until proven otherwise, right? Do you see a winning record? I won't even put too much pressure on you. Do you see a winning record for this team, all things considered, assuming everybody stays healthy?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it a little bit. There's a lot of ifs with the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like if Sam Howell performs up to what they think he's going to do, if the enemy's offense ends up turning a team that was 20th in yards per game and near that number in points per game, if you can even get that up a little bit, or if Emmanuel Forbes helps elevate this secondary and eliminate some of the explosive plays and create more turnovers of if all this other stuff. And with that said, if all those ifs go the way you want them to, I think there's a path for a winning record. Absolutely. I think the Cardinals that's a very winnable team. I think I think that's the kind of team that you want. I think going into week one.
Yeah.
They don't know who the starter is going, or at least maybe they know, but we don't know. They have a lot of questions. DeAndre Hopkins now is gone. And they're in a transition period with Jonathan Gannon and a whole new staff. So you look at that and you think, okay, that's a good momentum swing. And I think you see a lot of games that you think, okay, like you could possibly see them going and winning them. Of course, there's some tough ones out there, like week 3 against Buffalo. That's going to be tough. Week 4 against Philadelphia. Like those are going to be big tests for this team. But that said, if they can start fast, which is also another if for this team, then I think you feel pretty good about where this franchise is at. And you have to remember this too, is like they were literally just 3 or 4 plays away from winning 10 games last year.
Sure.
with not great quarterback play.
Yeah.
Just think about that. So if Sam Howell is, he just has to be better than that, I think. And I don't think there needs to be too much of an improvement to be made for them to be like, okay, this is a winning record on offense. I think that their work is already there. I think the talent is there. I think the defense is quality. I think the offense has plenty of talented players with enough tools in the box to make you say that this can work. So if all those factors come into play, I think we could see a winning record and with playoff run. And, once you get there, who knows what happens.
Yeah. Well, for all of our sake, Zach, I hope that we hit on most of those ifs and you get to cover your second playoff game as you cover our Washington Commanders. We appreciate you, Zach Selby. This is, again, Zach Selby, the Washington Commanders lead writer. He did get his 5th-year option picked up, so we can expect some more great things for him. Appreciate you jumping on here with us, Zach. And until next time.
17-0 until proven otherwise.
Be a fan.